Hey YouTube, it's Justin here, aka Demonic Sweaters. Today I've got a mixing tutorial for you guys again, and this one is a drum mixing tutorial, and it's going to be using the software Reaper. So what I wanted to do was mix the drums here using only stock Reaper plugins. In my last mixing tutorial, I showed you guys all these SSL channel strips that I use and things like that, and I figured a lot of you out there probably don't have those. So I figured I would do a drum mixing tutorial using only the stock plugins, like I just said. Now, as far as the guitars and bass and stuff goes on this song, I actually did use a channel strip plugin that I'm not going to use on the drums because I still want to use those, or I still want to mix those using only the Reaper plugins. But I wanted to show you guys this real quick because I'm using Linux here again. It's been a long time since I was using Linux, but I started using it again probably about a week ago. And if you're curious, I'm using Elementary OS as my Linux distribution. It has been my favorite since the last time I used Linux a few years ago, and it's just gotten even better since then. But anyway, enough about that. But this plugin I found is by a company called Audio Assault based out of Mexico, and it is very similar to the SSL plugins that you could purchase from Waves and other companies, except this thing is only 20 bucks. And it works on Linux. It also works on Mac and Windows and basically everything. And it has a lot of the same features that I like about the SSL channel strip plugins. It's not exactly the same, but it's cool. You know, it doesn't have as huge of a preset library as the SSLs do either. You can see there's only a few of them in here. But I'm going to make a totally separate video on this plugin because I do really like this plugin, and given that it works on Linux, it's actually really, really cool. So that's enough about that for this. Let's get to the mixing of the drums using only Reaper plugins. So first off, let me go ahead and play a little bit of this track so you guys can hear it. This is another Minnesota track, and this one's called Wrangler. And I actually re-recorded the drums just a couple of days ago. It's a previously released track, but I figured I would do a brand new drum recording to work with here, so everything's just totally dry, so you guys can hear what this sounds like right now. This is 100% dry, except for the guitars and basses, but the drums, you know, they're basically just right down the middle. Panning is all mono, and everything's completely dry. So here's what they sound like. Okay, so not terrible. I mean, everything's mic'd up, and they sound pretty good already. I mic'd up the kick, snare, both toms, and 2 overheads. So 6 mics on the drums. I'm using my Tama Club Jam Flyer drum set, which if you're not familiar with those, if this is the first time watching this channel and me talking about it, they are a very tiny drum set, but it sounds really nice. It's got a very small bass drum, and all the parts are really small. But anyway, I don't want to go on and on about that. But let's go ahead and listen to this a little bit more. Okay, so the first thing I want to start with is my kick drum. Now, I went ahead and made... Actually, no, I lied. First thing I want to start with is creating my bus, which is what I always do. So I'm going to go into Reaper here and right-click underneath my last track, and I'm going to insert a new track. Okay, and I'm just going to call this drum bus. All right, and then I'm going to right-click on this little knobby knob right here, and that'll bring up this little menu, and then I'm going to click on Add New Receive, and I'm just going to receive my 2 overheads because I always like to do this on my drums. And maybe I'll put the snare in there too, but we're going to start with just the overheads for now because I usually don't put the snare, but occasionally I do. And I'm going to bring that down some. There's nothing on there just yet, but let's go ahead and select something. So I'm going to clear the filter here, go to All Plugins. Actually, no, I'm not going to go to all plugins because I have a bunch of crap in here, but I'm just going to look at Kakos or Kukos or however you say it, the maker of Reaper. There's 2 things that I could use. There's the Kakos plugins and the JS plugins, and both of those come with Reaper. So we could use either one of these in this tutorial. So I'm going to start off with Kukos or whatever, however you say it. I have no idea. But Kakos is what it looks like. I'm just saying. Okay, so I'm going to go here and find a compressor. And I don't know which one I want to use yet. And it looks like I have Rex Comp and Recomp. So let's look at the differences of those. Oh, this one's a multi-band compressor, it looks like. Okay, let's take a look at the other one. And this is just this regular compressor. So I'm going to go with the regular compressor. I'm not going to get all fancy with multi-band on the overheads. Let's delete that one. Okay, and I do believe there's an overhead preset in here. Vintage overheads. There we go, yeah. And that one I do like. So let's go ahead and unsolo all of... Actually, let's do this. I'm going to mute... No, never mind. No, I'll just keep it how it was. Solo my bus too, so that way all we hear are the drums. Okay, and let's pan our overheads, left and right. Okay, that's without the drum bus. That's with the drum bus. We'll get back to that more later. I have to hear everything in context, but I almost always, let's bring this threshold down a little bit. Almost always put a bus compressor on my overheads. Yeah. Okay, now let's work on the kick drum. So that's pretty simple there, but like I said, we might fine tune it later, but for now that's good. And I'm going to go down here, clear my filter, and I actually created already, just to save some time here, some effects chains within Reaper. And what I'll do is I'll post a link down below where you can download these chains if you want to use them for yourself, just to save you some time. And they're like basically like a stack of effects that I would use on different instruments. So here we have DS, stands for Demonic Sweaters, stock kick. So let's open that up. And as you can see, why did I click the wrong one? This all says snare. All right, let's try that again. Yeah, I guess I did. What did I put those on? I put them on the snare. All right, let's get rid of all that. All right, let's try that again on the kick. So DS stock kick. Here we go. Okay, what you can see that I have here are a few different things. First off, we have an EQ right here, and we have compressor, and we have a gate, and we have a limiter. And let's go ahead and solo up just that kick so you guys can hear what this sounds like with the plugin, or the plugins, just basically how I saved them as a preset. I'm going to put on my headphones too. Okay, a little basketball-y, but that doesn't bother me. I kind of like that actually. It cuts through in the mix once we get everything going. So there you can hear how it sounds. Okay, so here, let me talk about what I did as far as the EQ goes. As you can see, I'm boosting almost 4,000 kilohertz, as well as almost 7,000 kilohertz. You know, you could play around with this. I just like to have, you know, that kind of high mids and high end boosted a little bit just to make my kick drum cut through the mix a little bit more. And then I drop out this, you know, around 400 hertz area to get rid of some of the mud. And then I give it a boost on the, you know, the sub area, 50 hertz. And that's a little low. I actually might want to bring that up to like 60 or maybe even 80. Let's hear it a little bit. Yeah, see, I think the 80 is probably better. I'll resave this. I mean, that sounded pretty good already. All right, so let's go ahead and close all this stuff. Oh, I didn't even talk about that. All right, let's talk about the rest of these. So the gates are very important. Use them. They help a lot. They make your drum sound a lot cleaner if they're used correctly. You don't want your drums to sound synthetic. You know, if you overgate them, they can sound really synthetic. But if used in places where you kind of need them or could need them, they will really help. So what they do, if you don't know, a gate just basically stops sound. It stops the quiet sounds. It filters them all out. And then anything above the threshold you will hear, on the gate. So if I turn off this gate, let's turn that off. See, you can hear my snare in the background there. And the ride. Turn it back on, all that stuff's gone. And in the mix, you really can't hear anything strange from that. Now, if you play with this, the threshold here, then you can adjust how much quietness will be filtered out. And then you can also play with these low pass and high pass filters and things like that. And all that, release and hold. Release is how long the sound will last. And I like it around 150 milliseconds. And attack is how fast the attack will be when the gate happens or when it releases. So, or not when it releases, but when it opens, basically. And you want that to be fast on a drum, obviously, because drums are fast. So that's that. And then the limiter is basically just here for protection. I'm not really using it, and the compressor actually is not really doing much here either. I could probably turn that off. And it's not going to change too much. Oh, this is a quiet part of the song, but let me go back. Yeah, it's really doing nothing. I mean, I'm going to leave it in the stack, though, just in case, like I want to use it like later on, or maybe one of you want to use it. But it's good to have in there. But right now it's just kind of just there. It's not really doing anything, even though it's on. But if I turn it off, you really won't hear much of a difference. Unless I start bringing this threshold down. And then you'll start hearing the difference. Okay. But I don't really like it unless I need it. So I'm just going to disable it. Okay, but the limiter I do want on there because, that way I can push my kick if I want to. If I want to, kind of push it a little bit and it's not going to go into the red or anything like that. So limiter's good. But again, right now it's not really doing much. It's kind of just there just for protection. All right, so let's close all of these. Now let's go to the snare. So like the kick, let me turn that off. That's kind of annoying. Like the kick, I created a preset or a stack. And this one's very similar to the kick as far as what it has. I mean, basically, I just recreated the SSL channel strip and what I was doing over there in the Windows side, except with stock Reaper plugins. And so if I play this now, let's hear what this snare sounds like. Okay, so here's without the plugins. Wait, let me go back to where I'm playing it. Okay, let's turn this back on. Once again, the gate filters out a lot of that nonsense. And here I just boosted, a little bit of the high mids, a little bit of the highs, took out some of the mud, around 800 hertz. And I just based this on the 11-band rock snare preset. And then boosted the 200 hertz frequency here. Now, this is one thing I like to do is use this JS exciter. And what this does, it just gives it a little bit more bite. If I turn this off, it just, the snariness isn't there quite as much. But with it on, you get a little bit more snary snare. It's almost like having a bottom snare mic. That's what I like about the exciter when I didn't use a bottom snare mic. Okay, so for compression, again, it's not really doing anything yet. It's not pushing it hard enough to really compress. I could bring this threshold down, make it start compressing a little bit. Maybe I will use a little bit of compression on here, and let's bring this up a bit. About minus 25 or minus 20.5 rather dB for compression rate threshold. And let's go ahead and listen to this now. Okay, now my snare's hitting the red a little bit, and I could do the limiter trick on here too. Or I can just bring it down a little bit. Let's bring it down a little bit first. Close some of this stuff. Okay, yeah, I think that's fine. So, toms, I'm just going to pan them around, you know, somewhere around 60 or around the 50 to 60% left and right. I'm going to do 60 on this one, at least for now. And then for the toms on this drum kit, I really like the way that the toms sound. Let's just solo these up here. And I rarely put any EQ on them, out of all honesty. So, but what I do, like a lot of the stuff you've heard on here, is use a gate. I love gates. Okay, so here on my, let's go back to Kakos, search gate. And the VST regate has a nice tom plugin, or a tom preset rather, tom gate. I'm just going to put that on both of them. So let's do that. We can just control drag over to the next one. Now let's keep those soloed and hear are the toms. Completely silent there. And then when I go to the fill, you know, they just pop in and then pop right back out. Okay, let's hear that in context. Bring up my rack tom a bit. Actually, I'm going to bring up both toms. Another thing I want to say too is never mix 100% through headphones. Get yourself a good set of, you know, near field monitors. The ones that I use are ancient. I've been using these for well over a decade now. And these are the Tannoy PBM 6.5s. You can't buy these anymore. They're discontinued model. And these were kind of like the poor man's good monitor. I don't have a good one's not coming to my mind right now. NS12, is that the one, the Yamaha one? I think it is. But yeah, they're similar. They have a similar really flat response. And what that means is they don't color the sound really in any way. So they're really great to mix through. I've been mixing through these for a really long time. And so I know how to get a good mix, or a mix that I think is good, out of these speakers, these monitors. And I combine those, you know, A/B back and forth with my Sony MDR 7506 headphones. And these I've had for probably almost as long as the Tannoys, because as you can see here, the foam is completely coming apart, and all the rubber protectant, you know, outside stuff is like, you know, flaking off and everything. I could probably stand to get a new pair of these, but they still sound just fine. So with this combination, I've managed to get some really good mixes, I think. But anyway, don't rely 100% on headphones is what I'm trying to say. You want to get yourself a nice set of flat response studio monitors. They don't have to be super expensive, as long as you know what they sound like. And that actually takes a little bit of time to get the personality of the speaker, like in how it sounds in your room, and, you know, how, I don't know, like you start to learn, like, because these, you know, I'm not going to hear like sub frequencies through these speakers at all. But that's why I have the headphones, because if I, am mixing 100% through these monitors, then I can tend to crank the bass too much. But if I mix 100% through these headphones, I tend to just, I don't know. I feel like if I mix through the headphones only, especially these, the levels seem to be screwed up. I don't know if they're very honest as far as like how things sound balance wise. I think frequency wise they do pretty good, but when basically when you're listening to headphones, you hear things differently than as if you're listening to a speaker. So I like to balance between the two. So yeah, that's the best way to do it, in my opinion. Okay, so another thing, as you can see here, I'm really maxing out the master over here. So let's deal with that. I'm not going to just start turning everything down yet because I'm not going in the red on my individual channels. So here is where I may use that multi-band compressor. So let's check that out. See what kind of presets we have here. Okay, so we have mastering 3-band. These ones have smile. That sounds like something I don't want to mess with. Okay, this one's pretty blank, so let's go with that one. 3-band mastering compressor. Let's see what that is. I'm going to leave that alone for now because I still want to add, my limiter. We're just going to go with relimit here. And this one, brick wall limiting. What do we have as far as presets? Nothing. But that should be okay. Yes, I love this one. If you can hear me, I'm not going to do a multi-band compressor because then I'm going to start messing with, like, they can kind of have an effect on the EQ a bit, and I'm happy with it right now, so I'm not going to mess with that. I'm going to go back to just a regular standard compressor here. Recomp. I'm starting to like this. Okay, I want to show you guys, let's listen to the difference between not having the drum bus on the compressor or on the overheads compared to having it. So this is what that sounds like. Here's with it on. I want to wait till I go to the ride because that's where you can really hear the difference. Okay, now let's mute it. So yeah, as you can see, it's totally possible to do a mix, of drums just using the stock Reaper plugins, and they do a fantastic job. I mean, I think it could sound just as good as my SSL plugins if I just got more used to using them. I mean, it's pretty darn close. The compressor I don't like quite as much as the one that I use in Windows, but it's still not too bad. And I think it's it's doing the job. Overall, I think the recording sounds nice, and I just need to I'm going to mess with the overall levels, I think, a little bit more. And once again, gates, they really can do a lot for you on drums. You just have to know how to use them and not overuse them. If you overuse them, they can make things sound very synthetic and weird. And you'll pretty much know right away if you do that. Some people use it as like an effect, and that, like if you're going for some kind of special effect where like a drum just, cuts in and out real fast, then that's cool too. There's no real rules. But the way that I'm using them here is basically just to clean up everything. So my overheads are really the cymbals and the ambience of the drums, and the individual drums are, they're really focused on just the drums that the mics are next to. Fortunately, the snare drum mic that I use, let's solo this snare. Even if I disable all of these plugins, go back here. Now, this is amazing to me because this is that very cheap Nady microphone that I showed you in one of my other videos, and maybe you didn't see that, so I'll just put it up on the screen. This microphone has incredible isolation. Let me go back to where I'm playing on the hi-hat. Now, if you've recorded drums, no doubt you are aware of how hard it is sometimes to keep hi-hats from being in your snare drum mic. Listen to that. That's without the gate. And there's barely any hi-hat in there. Like, I find that to be really amazing on such a cheap microphone. I have far more expensive microphones that can't do that, which is why I'm basically using that microphone as my main snare mic all the time now. And I actually think it sounds amazing. Oh, I have one right here. I have another one. Let me show you. There are these Nady DM70 microphones. Let me show you what it looks like. It's this very tiny little mic, and it also has, like, if I take this off, the way that the mic clips on here, this mic clip is actually pretty cool. It's like this rubberized holder that really seems to isolate the mic well from vibration. And I'm really shocked at how good this microphone sounds on a snare drum. I haven't tried them on toms, but I'm starting to think maybe I should, like, try them on everything. But this is a great little mic for a snare. The other mic that I was using for a long time was the Audio-Technica ATM 650, which sounds pretty much exactly like an SM57, but had better isolation from the hi-hats. But even though that one's a super cardioid microphone, it still didn't isolate as well as this little Nady mic does. I don't know how this thing does it that well, but it really does. I mean, it doesn't even say that it's hypercardioid or supercardioid. It just says cardioid, but it does it really good. And I also think the tonal quality of it is quite nice. Yeah, great for a little snare, snare drum mic. Really good. It says on here, ideal for capturing toms, snare drums, and percussion instruments. So, yeah, they're not wrong. And I should try them on some toms. Maybe I'll get a couple more. But I'm pretty happy with those Eevee mics I use in my toms anyway. So, I don't know. No reason to spend money if I don't have to. Anyway, let's listen to this again. I think it sounds good. Anyway, I'll show you guys the final mix. I recorded myself playing drums to it, and you can watch that. So thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Check out my link to anthillrecordings.bandcamp.com if you like this song. It's on the album As the Sun Rises by Minnesota, and you can pick that up as well as any other thing on Anthill Recordings that you like. You can also subscribe there and or be a follower or whatever. I forget what they call it, but you can pay like a monthly thing, and get all of the music, or you can buy all of them, the entire catalog, for like 30 some dollars or something like that. If you want to do that, that'll not only make me happy because I like people listening to my music, but it'll also really help out this channel, to help support what I do. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. See you in the next video.